Welcome to the whole I Run Rob Brand.
I'm Franco Del Valle.
I'm Laura Levine.
I've been waiting a long time to do this episode. I've been chasing this guy down for a long time. Michael Dowd. Mike, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you coming on. So,
thanks, it's really not hard to find. You just call one of my probation officers. You can find me real easy.
Yeah, that's actually what I did. That's how I tracked you down. I didn't want to blow your spot up, but I'll post his number at the end. So, those of you who don't know Michael Dowd, the 7-5 is a documentary about Michael's time at the NYPD, in which, like, now he's an ethics consultant for the NYPD. But he is because
I'm losing the sound here.
You're losing the sound a little bit. Let's stay with it. Tell me if you keep losing it. If
I got it now, you're back now.
Okay. So Mike is he was an ethics consultant for the NYPD because at his time in the NYPD, he did a lot of shit. And your story, Mike, is insane. Like, it's like right out of Breaking Bad. Like, it's should be a movie. I'm sure it will be at some point, other than a documentary for sure.
Right.
But I want to kind of set the scene of what it was like then, because what was it, 82? You became a cop?
Oh, yeah. So I went on in 82, and then most of the things that we've become to know me for happened in like 84, 85, 86, 87, and on from there.
So how old are you when you get on the force?
I was 21 years old in a couple days.
So you're a kid. I mean, you're really a kid at that point. And that's one of the things that you almost don't get as much from the documentary, because all the time that you're speaking, it's current you. But
right.
The first thing I thought is, wow, he was a kid. Like, you can see in the testimony, it starts off with your testimony. Where was that testimony to? Like, who were you talking to?
So that was a panel put together by, I want to say, Mayor Dinkins, of a bunch of like retired judges and people of import in the legal field, and commissioners, and he put it together in order to develop some kind of format to make some changes. So. I was the star witness before the panel.
Now, so at the time,
it was called the Mullen Commission.
The Mullen Commission. So at the time, and here's a photo from it, and I want to go back to it a little bit too, because I mean that's still a kid, compared to now. But I want to go back to that in a little bit. But
where was that guy?
Well, I thought that was Rick Pitino for a second, back when he was with the Knicks.
Taller.
So when you're doing this, so are you, at the time that you were on this committee, were your charges already pressed? Did this help you at all by doing that? Were you, was this part of the deal, or?
Well, so when I spoke before the commission, I had already pled guilty. So I was waiting to be sentenced, and my sentence range was from 12 and a half years to, people that understand the federal system, I pled guilty to a 12 and a half to 15 and a half range, but the judge was not bound by my range. She could go as high as life and as low as whatever she felt she could do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when I went in there and testified, I went in there under the understanding that, one, I couldn't lie, right? Mm-hmm. And two, that if I did what I was asked to do, that the commission would write a letter to my judge saying that I was helpful in the commission's deed, whatever their desire was to come out of the commission. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I had just been accused of 9 murders by the New York media, and I had turned him down 3 times, the Mullen Commission, twice. Mm-hmm. I turned him down twice, told him I don't want anything to do with you. It's not going to help me. 1, and 2, I don't want to see other people. I said a lot of cops are going to kill themselves if they see this happen. If they hear how it's done. If I expose how I did what I did, a lot of cops kill themselves, and I don't want to see anybody else go through that.
And that's why I saved the picture, because there are so many times your head is down. It's I don't know if it's shame or if it's you just maybe you just don't want to face them and answer the question without looking at anybody. I don't know what it is, but you can see every time, and especially when they start talking about other officers, because you at no point gave anybody else up throughout.
Right.
Right. So,
well, I felt that I destroyed my life and my family, and I knew everything that I said was going to, one, shame myself, right? Because it's not, you're not there to talk about how good you are. I mean, they don't care.
Right.
They only care about the bad.
Right.
10 years, I did a few things good, but they're not there for that. You know, they want to hear the bad things and how I did it and how I got away with it. And, you know, and I got my family in the audience, right? I have, you know, first time I'm out speaking in public about what they don't know. My family doesn't know what I actually did. They just know what I'm charged with and some of the things that are related to that. But they don't know.
Your mom and dad are alive? Are they there?
Yeah, my father was there, my uncle was there, and then as it turns out, I find out 30 years later that my high school best friend was in the audience too. So, and I just found out about 6 months ago. So it was really interesting to find that out. He was an attorney, and he was admitted to the bar, so he was allowed to be in there.
So, so let's kind of dive into some of these things. Let's roll it back to you start on the force, and one of the first stories that you tell is even at the academy, it wasn't exactly just cut and dry. Even at the academy, right?
Yes. Yeah. You know. It's like if you were in high school or college and your road dog was sitting next to you, your buddy, you know, and something went wrong, but you got an affinity for them or you have a close bond with them, you know, and they ask you, you know, can you fudge something for me? You know, what are you going to tell them? No.
Right.
Who says no? You know, you say what, why, and how can I help you? And what would be the effect on me? You know, you justify and rationalize. And then, you know, I end up forging some papers for the guy who I said that I broke his hand or broke his finger by moving my chair and hitting his table or some shit. I don't know.
Could I ask you something real quick? This is interesting to me. Would you say it was like a peer pressure thing, or do you think it was like you trying to fit in? Because those are two different things, right? Like one is where somebody forces you, and one is where you want to be a part of like the fraternity, so to speak.
I obviously wasn't forced. He didn't say you have to, and he didn't say, "Oh, I'll never talk to you." He just said to me, "Would you do this for me?" And it was almost like it was a natural answer was yes. I mean, maybe he knew the type of person I was that I would.
It's like a secondary family, right? It's like your new family. Exactly.
I'll go with that.
Yeah. So
you know, you're going to tell your brother, no, I can't help you out. Sorry. You know, so it was like an obligation almost. You felt obliged. Yeah.
So even in your training, internal affairs comes in as part of the training. So what happens when they come in, and then what happens after?
So back then, you know, we had we would have like a sergeant or a lieutenant from internal affairs would come in, talk to you, give you some examples of what happens and how it goes, how it can go south, and how you can get yourself in trouble. And we're always watching you, and there's always somebody, even in this classroom, that's watching you right now. And they put this little sense of paranoia in you. And then when he leaves, the instructor in the academy goes, "Okay, now everybody in here, forget everything he just said." You know, like that's, and make sure you cover your ass. That's all you need to know is cover your ass. So that
why did you get selected for what was the worst precinct in New York City, the 7-5?
I don't think it's a matter of selection.
Is it just random?
Technically, yeah. I mean, there was probably at the time, there was 3,800 police officers that graduated the academy on one day. So they had to be scattered throughout the city and then trained on field training then. So, and that took a year to train all those 3,800 people. So in the process, you learn the street before you actually getting trained, right? Because you're still in the street working. And then when your training begins 6 months later, which mine did, I already had a pretty good feel for the street and the job. And then when it was completed, we all get assigned to different precincts throughout the city. They try to keep you close to, if you live on Long Island, they don't want to send you to Staten Island or the Bronx. So they try to work that out. And it's just a random pick. Or maybe they see a little street in a guy. They put a guy with some street into a little more heavy urban area. They put a guy with cupcakes in his pants. They maybe put him in Queens somewhere. So, you know, it all depends on, so who makes the choices? I don't know. Because back then, people had hooks. They could make a phone call. I want to go to the 102 or I want to go to the 104. And daddy makes a call. And all of a sudden they end up I didn't have a daddy, that could make the call. So I ended up in the 7-5.
Were you so pissed when you found that out?
Yeah.
I would be crying.
I was.
I wouldn't want to go there.
Yeah. Now, just to set the scene too, the difference in New York now, this is not New York City now. This
East New York is still not somewhere you want to go.
Even then, it's even now it's a little gentrified, but even all of New York, like even the Disney Times Square, it's not. This was a very dangerous time in New York. There was a shitload of fucking crime, and there was tons of murders. It was not like it is now. It's not even close.
Every day you were handling either a shooting, a stabbing, a robbery, or a rape. Every day, like you were on scene for that at least once every shift. So you get annoyed real quickly, by the way. But like my first midnight shift, I had to handle a homicide. Jesus was shot in the head. Yeah. My first midnight shift, I had to handle Jesus got shot in the head in the 7-5, not in Queens. I was in Queens for about a year before I got transferred over to 7-5. So you had to learn on your feet real quick. Like, you were there. You're like, it was go time, baby. And it was time to go.
Yeah. So you're go ahead, Franco.
Do you think like you have to like, if you want to make it, you got to get like desensitized as quickly as possible? Like you can't put any like, you can't put like your like your morality into it. You just got to like get into like whatever it is. That's what it is. You got to just like look at it. Like
you can't sit there and cry, or feel bad.
Essentially,
you just got to go. You just, you have to take control and be in command when no one else is.
That's a lot to ask for a 22-year-old who is just now learning.
Right. Right. And I don't think, and while I'm not going to at any point like make excuses because you don't, so I'm not making excuses, but it's one thing the documentary doesn't really touch on is how young you really were at the time. And, you talk about getting, your paycheck was what, $600 a week?
Every 2 weeks.
So $600 every 2 weeks. Now you mentioned like you get tired of it, right? So that's probably around the time where you start like, what's the first time I know, the first time you start thinking, wow, there's money to be made here. Like, what's the first time that happens?
Well, I mean, you see it along the way, but you like I was offered a bribe by one of my first arrests. The guy tried to give me $1,500, and I was embarrassed that he would even offer me money. Like it's weird. It's weird how it went from that to like, okay, what can I get today? So here I am, 21 years old. The guy offers me $1,500 for a DWI, and I'm like I'm ashamed that he would say that to a man in uniform. How the fuck, the nerve? And then I didn't even charge him with that. I didn't try to get him in. Like I didn't want to get him in trouble.
Right.
No, I don't want to be a real police officer and get you in trouble right now. You just offered me a bribe. I'm just going to lock you up for the D-weed because he was sleeping behind the wheel. His foot was on the brake on the curb. Okay. It wasn't like I chased him down. He was sleeping on the curb.
Right.
On the brake, and I thought he was dead. He had his head on the steering wheel. So I was my foot post. I had to gently open the car door and put the car in park. And then when I started talking to him, he was mouthy and nasty. And then one thing leads to another. Here's take my wallet. There's plenty of money in there. And I'm like, I mean, like I'm 21 years old and like I'm being offered more than I've cash than I had in my bank account. So
yeah, sure.
But I was embarrassed that he would even offer me. And then you take from that transition, you end up in the 7-5. You end up being underappreciated, overworked, and of course, everybody's underappreciated, right? Well,
right, sure.
And most people are overworked, but you're still impressionable, and you're still human. You don't lose your humanity when you become a police officer, although some people think we do.
Right.
But the reality is, I still had bills to pay, and like you said, clearing $600 every 2 weeks.
Stuff.
Didn't get you too far. And then all of a sudden I was being harassed by some cops in the 7-5 that I was taking their meal. I was on a car stop and I got pulled over by another police officer while I'm on a car stop. Like they pulled up and did a car stop on me and my partner. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? Turned out that we were in their sector and we should not be pulling people over in their sector and don't stop at our restaurants and don't do this and don't do that. I'm like,
from the same precinct?
Yeah.
So what was the reason? Because they didn't want you to see what they were doing?
I had Sector George and they had Sector Charlie David, which I bordered them. And they didn't want me crossing into their sector and doing anything. So it's like I thought it was a joke. And then, I put two and two together. They didn't want me at their bodegas. They didn't want me at their places to eat. They didn't want me giving out summonses in their sector. So I'm like, there's got to be a reason that matters. I mean,
right.
And you follow anything in this world today, look for the money, So, right. Being a very smart guy, because I was an accounting student in college, I said, this must be about the money. And, there's a weak moment in time. We all have weak moments, right? I can use a couple hundred today. And that's when I made the car stop with the mystery. And instead of giving them the 1,500 in tickets, I said, how about a lobster lunch? So
you basically just, that was the first time. So you needed the money at that point. And you were like, I'm going to try this. Like, what made it about that specific one that you thought it would be an easy one and you'd get away with it?
Well, it was like opportunity and timing. So everything was right. I had like $5 in my pocket. I wasn't getting paid for another week. And he was a Puerto Rican kid with no license, no registration, no insurance card, no license plates. The title wasn't even in his name. I'm like, okay, I don't think they're looking to set me up. I mean, this.
Right.
And, and he had a thick knot of hundreds in a. Remember the fanny pouches back then?
Yep.
He had a thick knot of hundreds in a fanny pouch. I'm like, I could use a couple hundred right about now, and it's certainly going to make his day. I'm not going to take his car. I'm not going to give him the summonses. And I made the move, and he left some money on the back seat of the car. My partner and I split it. And then I drove around for like 2 hours, scared to death. Like,
yes, I'm going to ask you. So, not only scared to death, like, did you that night's over? You go home. Do you say, Jesus Christ, what the fuck did I just do? Or were you like, wow, that was easy? Well,
like I said, it was a couple hours driving around in the patrol car, saying, looking over my shoulder, wondering if I'm going to get pinched for taking some money, Mm-hmm. And when I didn't, I slept pretty good that night. I'm not going to lie.
Of course. So your partner at the time, you didn't have Kenny, the partner you were with for most of it. You had a different partner at that point, right?
Yeah.
So he was he already doing stuff aside from that?
No, I would say no. That was probably the first thing he ever did that I was aware of, because he and I worked steady together most of the time. When you're new to a precinct, you just finding your way around. And I had worked with him in Queens as a rookie, so we came over together, and so we paired up quickly. He was a different type of guy. He was you know what? To be honest with you, he was actually the smart cop. Not that he was more intelligent, but he was older. Mm-hmm. He had a little bit laid back approach. He wasn't so gung ho and eager. Right. Here I am looking to lock up the world because I'm a policeman, and I'm in the ghetto, and everybody in here is doing something wrong, and I want to make arrests because that's what policemen do. And he's like, take it easy. Right. Meanwhile, I didn't know his father was murdered in Brownsville back in the day. They killed him in his TV store on Pitkin Avenue. So he's like, take it easy,
Yeah, a little more reserved. Yeah, he's seen real shit.
Yeah, he's had a little different approach to this than me, So
yeah, so then what's the first time? So you start to do little things like that. Does it then become a daily occurrence, or how long after that first one do you go, you know what? Let me just fucking chill, and then because I got to imagine you try to correct yourself real quick.
So the first time. So like you pause, right? You say, okay, well, I did that. That's it, So you put a mental note in yourself, say, okay, if I ever come across an opportunity.
I did that. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
If I ever come across an opportunity or something, you might, but it wasn't like my goal. It wasn't like I was out there trying to make that happen. And then one day we came across a homicide, and it was a trade bag spot. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but people would go into like a candy store and put $3 in a hole and come out with a trade bag. There was hundreds. There was 500 of those places in East in the 7-5.
Right, all the bodegas and everything like that.
Yeah, they're fake bodegas. They're not. They have the little plates in front with the numbers on them. There was 500 spots in the 7-5 like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and if there's a murder in there, we roll in. There's money laying around. There's bags of marijuana, and I there was like a little stack, couple hunch, So I put them in my pocket. And we're doing the investigation on the homicide scene, and in walks my sergeant. And he goes, okay, is that it? The marijuana, there was about $1,500 in cash, and I felt like he knew. Right. So reach in my pocket, take out the money, like a little thin sliver, you know. I go, well, I didn't want it to get covered in blood or dirt, you know what I mean?
Is that really? How thoughtful of you.
Yeah, I thought, yeah. And so I gave it to him. He looks at me like, Anyway, so that night we were at choir practice up on this bar on 110 in Farmingdale called Fulton Street Pub. And that was back in the day. And I said to him, boss, I says, what if I kept that money? How would you feel? You know, and he's like, if I don't see it before I get there, it's yours. And I went,
oh, that was right.
Damn it, man.
Right up. But there's your license right there. That's a big moment.
I got my permit. You know, just go. Just make sure that no one sees it. And if you get something good, make sure I get something.
Wow.
Okay. I got a partner out there now. Right. So my at that point, my approach, I was cognizant of the fact that if something went down opportunistically like that, usually internal affairs doesn't murder somebody and set a plant, right? I mean, that's not normally what they do. Right. So I assume if someone was murdered, the money's mine. And, you know, so I certainly rushed to a lot of murder scenes after that. I'll tell you that. I saw a lot of murders.
Yeah. So anytime you hear it on the radio as a murder scene, you go there because you know there's an opportunity then.
Well, people get murdered for a reason. You know, in the ghetto, usually it's for drugs or money or sneakers, depending upon. You know.
So what's the first time you take a really serious amount of money in one of those situations? Was
it the Rastafarian thing? That's an awesome story in the 7-5.
Lori did her homework.
Yeah, about that. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, that was nice. I don't remember exactly how much we got, but he accused us for taking $24,000, but I think we got half that. It was Chicky had the guns in the bag, and Chicky's like, oh, look, these guns. And I mean, to tell you the story is the woman comes to.
But I don't get that. How did he take? Aren't these guns? They have serial numbers. How can you take guns?
Well, the guy should. He's a criminal.
Right. He doesn't have.
Right. No, but your partner wanted the guns, right?
Yeah, but cops don't have to worry about numbers like that.
Yeah.
Just theirs. You know? No one's going to say to the cop, oh, do you have the proper serial number? Unless you're on duty gun, you know.
Lori, you'd be the worst dirty cop ever.
That's okay.
No, I got to get a feel for it. I am learning. Yeah. I would be a good dirty cop, I swear.
Oh, okay, good.
All right.
Anyway, but you don't want to pay the price, let me tell you. Yeah. So the interesting thing is that the woman came to the precinct to report that her husband was beating her or something like that. So we put her in the car, and then we drive all the way to New Jersey and Dumont. And I think it was 422 New Jersey or 522 New Jersey. Anyway, it's a corner house. Walk up, and she opens the door, and we're following her in for her protection. And she opens the door, and he looks at her, and I see him over her, and he turns white. You know, his dark skin rasta. He turns, and she turns around and says, "Okay, officer, thank you very much." And she slams the door closed. And of course, she couldn't keep it closed at that point.
Right.
So anyway, I drag him by his dreadlocks, and we hit the house, and we find a big bale, like a huge bale of marijuana, and then Chicky goes under the couch and pulls out this bag, duffel bag, you know, like a gym bag, and it's full and heavy. And Chicky he opens it up and takes the two guns out and puts the bag back under the couch. I go, "What's in the bag?" He goes, "Cash." I go, "You're taking
you left the cash?
Cash in that bag? What are you're leaving the fucking cash? You can buy a lot of guns with that cash." So anyway, so I found out 9 months later, we got called back to the house or something, and the wife's yelling at me and my partner at the house. "You stole our money last year." I'm like, "Shut the fuck up."
So
there's 8 cops here. What are you
doing? Yeah,
psycho. Put her in the psycho ward. She's crazy.
But I, most of the people. It sounds like most of the people in that, in the precinct wouldn't have been surprised by that or wouldn't have cared.
I think the proper answer to that, to be fair to everybody, it would have been like, one, I don't believe it, and two, who cares? Like, because at that point in the middle '80s, it was all about staying alive, and all right, so you're missing 25,000 cash. Where the fuck did you get it? I mean, you're complaining? I mean, you're not in jail? It's amazing that how people can think that, and this is just from the perspective of being there. Like, wait, you're selling kilos and you're calling 911 to say that the police took the money that you sold from selling kilos? I mean, so it was like you picture the conundrum that everybody's in. I'm calling the police because the police took my money. Oh, where'd you get the 200,000? Oh, I sold 17 kilos last year, and that was my problem.
Right.
So the whole thing is like, you can't really have a conscience. Right. You can't have a conscience if you're a criminal, so to speak, right? Like, you're doing something negative. Like, you can't all of a sudden also expect to be treated like a law-abiding citizen.
Yeah, I mean, it's like being in the mob, right? They kill each other and no one worries about it. It's just the way it is. Yeah,
there's a code. And the code is very simple. It's like, if you're doing something dirty and somebody does something dirtier to you, you can't be mad that it happened.
Yeah, especially in light of the fact that you could be going to jail right now and not come home, or you can lose a few grand. So it's like, It's very justified on both sides, right? Because they're not going to complain if you take a kilo and 25,000.
I mean, as you're probably aware from your own experience, everybody gets the shit end of the stick at some point.
At some point.
So, at what point do you wind up with a different partner? Like, how does that happen? How do you?
They said that no one wanted to be your partner.
Yeah. Just to give you an idea, just like a friend of mine, Anthony, he's a retired police officer, and I told him that you were coming on, and the first thing he says, that guy's a fucking maniac. So even now, the fact that you're a maniac is still a common response.
I'm an old man right now. I'm 59.
I think you're
kids. I just tell the story like you're there. You feel like you're in the car, right?
Right. All right. So nobody wants to be your partner, but finally, you wind up with Kenny.
I should have fucking kept no partner, but
but so at the time, you have to almost start again in what you're doing. Like were you concerned? When you first had him, did you try to think, how am I going to get him comfortable to do this? How do I feel that out?
It just didn't happen. It didn't just happen overnight. We worked together off and on for about 3 months. And, he got a little comfortable with me. I got comfortable with him. He'd start taking me to one of the bodegas where he get his Heinekens. And so he loosened up that way with me, which we didn't think that was a big deal because, you're going to get sent to the farm, whatever, so he didn't feel he was risking much, and he can still maintain his own demeanor, his own system, whatever. I didn't know him before that for working. So I didn't realize that all he did was make arrests for domestic violence and drink Heineken. So,
right.
I'm working with a guy who, he's big collar man because he likes to get the overtime. So that's what he did. Mm-hmm. And in my case, I'd rather just take the money and then go home. So to me, it was like, why are you going to spend another 12 hours in court and stuff when you can just you get 500 here and you're done. You can go home. So I had a little different approach to him.
And then, so, there's the story that he tells where you peeled off $100, you gave him $100, and, he kept it. He just had it in his locker. I mean, I don't know if that's true or if it's not. Do you believe that part?
Actually, if he said that, I believe that because he's that odd. Mm-hmm. I would have took it home and gave it to my.
We're losing you a little bit, Mike.
I think he got a phone call.
Yeah, maybe.
Must be his old partner.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah. Did you get a phone call?
Yeah. I mean, and it's supposed to be on airplane mode. How do you call me when you're on airplane mode?
You might have the mobile airplane mode where it still gets phone calls, but it's all good. The story's getting good. I'm excited.
Yeah. So anyway,
get back to it. Fuck the phone call. Just get back to it.
They're gonna call again. So let me just send them a text if I can.
I think there are two kinds of people, right? In the workforce, it's those guys that can cut the corners and get it quick, and those guys who want to bust their butts to really make it and be like, I earned this, right? Like,
I mean, you can say all that you want, but I could have made them all day long too. But the thing is, he was a collar man for his own sake. You understand what I'm saying? Like he would find arrests rather than arrest. It
was his excuse for the bad things he was doing. It's just like, I'm working hard to make money, but at the end of the day, he was still out there seeking arrests that were maybe unwarranted.
More, yeah, I'd say more to the fact that they didn't have to be made. I'm sure they weren't illegal, but like back in the day, you could have someone sign a book and promise not to beat each other up, and or it was such a minor situation where you could have just said, "All right, go on timeout and go across, go to your mother's house," and instead he would just be eager to make the arrest. That's just how he operated. That's what he did. I mean, it's not wrong. It wasn't criminal.
No, it's a different kind of advantageous, though.
He made the system work for him.
Yeah.
So there comes a point where you get him on board. It's not that first dollar bill. So what's the first time you get him on board?
So
you break him.
Yeah. Well, we have an agreement. I have a discussion with him about, listen, if there's 3 pieces of rice, one for my wife, one for my kid, and one for you, I'll go hungry. I told him, I said, that's how I roll. That's who I am. I said, but if you really want to make some serious money, I said, last week when you weren't working with me, I made, $37,000. I said in one shot. So I said, but if I'm working with you and that happens, it's not going to, I can't, if I don't trust you or you don't trust me, it can't happen.
Right.
So that's the one where we were circling the block, and then Chicky and Brian came with so technically I was working with Kenny at the time off and on, and, he missed it because he wasn't there, So when I told him the story, he was like, oh, fuck. I said, I'll let you know if you're interested and you want to make that kind of money. If we come across it, we're not out there hunting the street. If something comes down, falls in your lap, what are you going to do? Voucher the money and give it to the city, or take it home and give it to your family? I mean, whatever. So you can justify and rationalize anything, right? So
yeah. And now, so once he's on board, so now shit starts to escalate in the form of Baron Perez.
Right.
So this is now where it goes from you just with individuals and different scenes you go to. Now you start getting involved with gangs, and you start getting involved with the organized crime units as well. Right. So you meet Baron. How does this happen? How do you get, how does an officer and a local, because yeah, how does that happen? Like, because you got to think, you never trust him, he never trusts you because you're a cop. Like, how do you find that meet in the middle? It's crazy.
So, they call it community policing today, right? So I did my own brand of community policing back then. So I would get out and speak to the shop owners and get to know the people in the neighborhood. And I knew that Baron Perez's clientele were all major drug dealers because they were putting $20,000 boombox systems in their vehicles. So, he knows that I know. I know that he knows that I know. So, it wasn't that difficult to, one, get my first Benzie box and then get 5 more Benzie boxes put in my car because they all got stolen. Right? The Benzie box. You remember the Benzie box?
Yeah, I got mine stolen. You probably fucking have it.
Not me. I lost 5 of them. But so anyway, and from that point, it turns into okay, so I find this hit. I think the way Baron and I got to that was I found a stash of drugs, and I brought him a stash of drugs, and he said, I can get rid of it or whatever. And it actually turned out to be a bad deal. But anyway, from that point forward, he was able to tell me, listen, excuse me, I got a bunch of guys, my clients. I go, yeah, I know. And he says, some of them want some information now and then, something that might help them to just to be able to set their business up in a way that they don't have to feel threatened for just 4th of July weekend. Go speak. It was for the 4th of July weekend. That was the first opportunity we had. And I said, oh, yeah. And I just made up the story. Yeah, go ahead. It's the 4th of July weekend. I figured, well, the cops are out on details. The Macy's parade, the barges, and all this other stuff going on, and the fireworks display, and it's concerts in Central Park, and cops want to be home with their families. So it's going to be a low percentage of being busted that day.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, yeah, it's going to be great. Don't worry. And, if we're around, we'll keep an eye out, whatever. The week passed. He had very minimal police activity at his locations. He had many locations. and it was La Compañía. It was, I think you maybe saw part of the movie where Joe Hall was sitting in the van and they started shooting at him, chasing him.
Mm-hmm.
They were surveilling that. That's the company that I was actually working for that weekend, whatever. Working for. I don't know. I was home myself, so I said, yeah, it's going to be a good weekend. And so I got $8,000 paid for Kenny and myself, but they shorted us $700.
Now here's the part where you definitely start really in my mind when I watched this and I followed the story. This is the part where you really started to assert yourself as if you were part of organized crime, because he
was absolutely a soldier for them.
So you get shorted, and what do you do?
So I get shorted, and I get shorted, and I put pressure on their location. I start parking in front of their spot. I start telling other cops to park in front of their spot, and so their business is starting to hurt. And then after about a week of that, I even hired two guys and gave them $1,000 each when I wasn't working, to sit in front of his spot, and they would be there chasing, clientele, purchases, retail, wholesale people that were buying and selling drugs over there. So their life became really miserable for about 6 or 8 days. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I get my pager goes off, and it's Baron paging me on my beeper, and it's a 911. So I call him. He says, "You working today?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Stop by before you go in." I stopped by. He said, "Someone put a hit on me. La Compañía put a hit on me." And I said, "Okay." So now what am I going to do? Wait? Mm-hmm. So I was working that tour, and I think I was working with the same woman that I had the chickie thing going around the block with the money in the car. So I told her to sit in the car. I'll be right back. I saw his vehicle. I never saw the guy in my life. I saw his vehicle. I pulled it over, and I told him the story that you guys saw in the documentary.
Yeah, but for the people who aren't listening, so what did you say to this guy? Because this to me is like a balls beyond balls at this point.
Well, you have to realize the position I was in. Like, once you take that stand and cross that line, you can't be fake about anything, because someone now threatened to kill me. So I pulled him over, and I said to him, license, registration, insurance. And, he didn't know who I was. And he got his license, registration, insurance, and handed it to me. And I just took it and threw it back in his lap. And I said, "Why don't we do it right here?" And he looks at me, and you can see the dark-skinned Dominican turn white. I go, "Why don't we do it right now? You're going to put a fucking hit on me? Come on, get out of your car. Let's do it. I'll be a gentleman. You get out. We do a 10-face Mexican walk standoff, whatever they call it. And we'll see the best man wins." No. I'm sorry. I said, "You take the hit off right now." And that's it. I didn't say anything about the money. I said, "You pull that fucking hit off right now." Mm-hmm. And then about an hour later, my beeper goes off, and it was Baron. He said, "Come by the shop." I go, "By, now what? Now what?" I got the whole fucking world after me. What's going to happen next?
Right.
And he throws a stack of money at me. He goes, "Here's your $700.
It's crazy. And you know what? Like, I think most people wouldn't have taken it to that level. And clearly they were testing you. They were testing to see what they could get away with. They could testing to see if they could push you around. Right. And because $700 to a guy like that is fucking nothing. It's
nothing.
Right. So that's so intentional just to fuck with you. And he probably didn't expect you to come back at him. But I think at that moment, he probably realized this is a guy I can fucking trust now at the same time. I won't kill him. I'll trust him, one or the other.
It's how it works, right?
Yeah. So things escalate now.
So we end our relationship right away.
So you severed that then?
Yeah, we're done. You go your way. I forget your name. You forget my name, and we're done.
Okay.
And then Baron, quick to make money because he's getting something in the middle always, right? Mm. So I got another guy. Take it, relax. Don't close up shop. So he ended up asking me if I would be interested in working with this Diaz person, and I said, "Well, what's the operation?" He said he told me where it was. I said, "I see it. I know the area. I know it's in my sector." I said, "I know the place. It's the most insane cars, Porsches, Mercedes, BMWs, all day long, pulling up to this bodega in the ghetto with rope chains and signs around their neck, with their name. They bring, it's like bells and whistles going off." So
Yeah, so there's a big difference now. So this is Diaz is way higher and more powerful and more money in this organization.
All his clients are what do you call it? Volume buyers. Then kilo, half a kilo. They're not buying 8 balls and grams to go get high. So he's selling to guys that are making big turnover money. So here, now we get introduced to him, and I said, listen, for what we just went through with the other guy, I might as well just tell him, let's just give us the money up front. Just give us the load up front.
Yeah, go back to the balls. You go to meet with probably, let's say he's probably the biggest drug guy in Brooklyn. Would you say? Is there anybody?
I would say he was the biggest cocaine dealer in Brooklyn. Yeah.
And you want to meet with him, so you tell him.
Aaron thought it was a good idea. We're getting paid, so what am I going to do?
Yeah, but what were your condition to meet with him?
That he gave us $24,000 in cash
just
to sit down with us and talk.
Fucking balls, man.
24,000 is a common number in Mike's life.
Yeah.
That was the Rastafarian number too.
I also think that I thought 8,000 was such an odd number too, instead of 10. I always thought that was a weird number.
Well, it's good that you say that, because they actually were giving us 10, but Barron was taking 2 off the top. I didn't, and he never told us that. Why would he? Brokered the deal, right?
There you go.
Out of our gratitude towards Barron, we kicked them back 1,000 also. So Barron made 3,000. We made 3,500 each.
Wait, so Barron knew you were shorted. Instead of giving you the money, he kept the 7 for himself.
No, he ended up giving us that money.
Oh, okay. I don't want to start new shit.
unless he took it himself, and unless he took that money himself, I don't know.
Yeah. So all right. So you start working with Diaz. So what ramps up now? So things start to get really like to a completely different level now.
Yeah, we start changing his operation, making recommendations on how he should operate, helping him move his like end of shift, helping him move his merchandise and his money out of the place. So we really became sort of intricate part of that. I mean, as much as you could be without actually being, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah. So when you say help, did you?
Like you're always around, but you're not.
Right. So when you say help him move stuff, so like as an escort, or you help actually, so basically this drug deal is getting a police escort everywhere it goes.
Yeah, you got a police escort. Yeah.
And then there's another part.
People getting killed. I was saving lives. I looked at it as saving lives. I mean, at that point, no one was going to shoot him, and no one was going to shoot at us because, technically we're the police. So it was.
Because those are the same people that would be shooting at you if they didn't know that you were protecting them. So there is that part of it too. It's not all about the money, but the money's not.
Yeah. So I look at it as I may have saved some people's lives. I don't know. I'm making tongue in cheek here, but the reality is there were less shootings when I was there. So
how much would you say in a year with Diaz, between what you're making from Diaz, what you're making from any regular polls, any murders that you pull up on, just in one given year, how much money would you say that you took over and above the $600 every 2 weeks that you were getting paid?
So from Diaz, it was $3,500 a week and like an ounce or two. So, $5,000 a week. That was like an average, but it wasn't people misconstrued. It was only like 4 months with Diaz like that. And then Diaz organization got hit. There's a lot of stuff that happens.
Right.
And we prevent them from getting busted, but some kid comes out with a shotgun and the bosses go back in. They tore the house apart and they came out with all the money and all the cash that we protected initially. Right. If you hear some stories, that's the day that the guy says, they put the gun to my head and it went quiet. If you remember the documentary, his name was Elvis. Elvis says, and they put the gun to my head and I just went quiet. And that's when they dragged him upstairs. He emptied out all the stuff, but they only got half of it because the police showed up and me. And then when they all ran, they left half the load, only to be rediscovered later when the police went back in and stripped the place down because this young kid came out with a shotgun and said, "Officer, there's a shotgun here in the hallway." I'm like, Jesus Christ. It just shut the whole thing down.
Yeah. So at what point does the 7-7 start getting people arrested? Because there's a precinct near you where all of a sudden people are getting cops are getting arrested for being corrupt in a different precinct, right? Is that around that time?
Yeah. See, this is what actually strikes me as odd. The 7-7 happened, I want to say, in the summer of 85 to 86. I lose a year in my brain, so you have to bear with me. So between 85 and 86, the 7-7 goes down. And then they start talking about the 7-5 is next.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody's very cautious, very careful. You know, things get a little quiet for a while. And the street, we know the street is like buzzing with it. So that's why we stepped it up to a different level. Because otherwise the street, you could make 500 a day easy, you know, just bing, bing, bing. Everybody's got cash for you. But I figured we move away from the street because that's where you have more contacts, right? I mean, you know, It's like
more exposure.
Half a gram guy in a bar, right? Or the guy selling kilos to 3 people, you know? So the half a gram guy in the bar is going to see 45 people in one night. So that was a lot of exposure. They were trying to set us up a few times. Internal Affairs knew, so they were trying to set us up in the street. So that's why I decided that if I'm going to do anything, it's going to be at a different level. So I'm not dealing with street guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that was after the 7-7. I can't believe I still kept doing it.
Well, so and you were actually,
and I was scared to death. By the way, I was just scared to death.
So you were like, that's the other thing too. Like it's not abundantly clear on where you start getting really nervous. And obviously, you know, and we'll
remember. I'm so confused. Like, why didn't I stop? I actually did stop for about a year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you did?
So I did, yeah, because they transferred me to Coney Island for 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got back from Coney Island, no one would work with me. Remember, you hear the story? No one would work with me.
Right.
So from the time I got back from Coney Island to the time I eventually hooked up with Kenny, I was really pretty good, except maybe once. You know, I robbed somebody, but it was you know, it was opportunity. You know.
Mm-hmm. So you get to the point. So you gotta be making about $250,000 or more a year, right?
Oh, I would say no. That would be. I wouldn't be sitting here. I would say at that point I'm making about 70,000 off the books and 40,000 on the books. You know,
yeah, but that's like 150,000 because you're not paying any taxes on it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You're an accounting student too.
So did you? So and you were even smart enough to take the money to Atlantic City and launder it.
I guess you call that laundering it, right? You take your 20s and 10s and 5s and you hand it in at the casino window and they give you hundreds back.
Yeah. So you were able to go there and kind of clean
it up.
Clean as much as you could. Yeah. All right. So I notice there's a big mistake that you make. I guess in retrospect, you know, the story is that the feds were watching the whole time. So they knew. So it wasn't like there wasn't any one specific moment that did you in. But the one thing that struck me is, and I think you know where I'm going with it, like, why would you buy a Corvette? Like, why?
And red, no less.
Yeah, Mike. And then drive it to the precinct, no less.
Okay, so the real answer to that question is the feds weren't on me back then.
Oh, they weren't.
But Internal Affairs was.
Okay.
And so I looked at it like this. If you take a brand new, with the sticker still on the window, red Corvette to work with a white convertible top, and you park it in the lieutenant's spot, right?
Mm.
If you don't get in trouble or brought into Internal Affairs, questioned or fired in some manner, then you're good.
No.
So it's the canary in the mine.
Yeah.
I figured, let's put it right in their face and see if they come out, because I was hearing a lot of shit in my head. The 7-7, 7-5's next. Oh my God, they're coming. I got a child, and a marriage and a child and a couple of homes. I'm going to lose it all. Let me find out now while I'm still young and relatively healthy, and I can go get a new career, whatever, right? Whatever's going to come. So after I parked it there and nothing happened, I went, I can't fucking believe this. Like,
yeah.
I mean, think about it. Like, I mean, it's like almost genius, right? I'm gonna put this car right in your face, and if you don't take me now, you had your chance. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that was a moment that shocked me. But so you started. Is this around when you started doing drugs as well? Is this like?
Well,
yeah.
I mean, well, that, you know, you got everything else. You got to start shoveling.
Right. So is that? Would you say that that's the? What do you think is the one area that got you on the road to being caught? Like where's the one thing? If you said, if I could go back and change that one thing, maybe I don't get caught. Or do you think it happens no matter what?
No, it doesn't happen no matter what. In fact, it would not have happened. But Kenny retired, and that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny got bored at home, and he contacted me, and he wanted me to get him some product. And so that particular day dragged me into some investigation that he was under.
Mm-hmm.
Because he didn't know it. I mean, it wasn't like he knew. And I found out that day, Kenny, they're watching you. And he said, "Oh, Mike, they've been watching you for years. It's probably, internal affairs." I said, I said, nah, he may be right. But as, a couple of days went on, it just seemed more and more odd. I was seeing more and more different vehicles following me. And I was really, feeling it. And I'm saying, Jesus Christ, maybe it's the cocaine. I'm paranoid. I don't know. But, you're not paranoid if you're right, correct? So yeah. I was right. They were following me around and around quite a bit. But that was in 1991/2 when Kenny was home and retired for like 2 or 3 years. See, people miss that in the story. They don't realize.
It's not in there really.
Yeah, you don't realize that Kenny's been retired. He's at home, bowling in the West Babylon lanes and selling half grams to his friends. I mean, dude. What are you, fucking crackhead here? You're fucking selling half grams you're a cop.
So it was Suffolk cops that were watching him then.
Yeah, so he was under full investigation. They actually had enough to arrest him already. Mm-hmm. But they were seeing where it would take him, and then they picked him up, calling me to ask him to help him out with something. Of course, loyal guy, what can I do for you? I hooked him up, got him a kilo, got him 2 or 3 kilos. Then I said, you know what? I'm not liking what I see. And I put together this amazing deal. This one last deal. You know how you're all going to do
one last score, yeah.
One last deal.
Yeah.
And it worked out for like 2 weeks. And then they were in a steep. Then they had a lot by then, and then Rodney King broke out in LA. And they did. Then I was in the 9-4 at this point. I had come out of the
where's the 9-4?
That's in Greenpoint, in Brooklyn. Yes. Yeah, so at this point, I was working on the 9-4, and Kenny was retired. So I was safe. The fact that he was retired, I was safe because I knew he was a bit of a weak link. And the fact that I forced him into retirement and got him his pension, I felt relieved. Now, him asking for some merchandise, I didn't feel any threat until, of course, when I saw all the surveillance going on, which he didn't see.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking idiots.
While
that was going on, I made this nice deal and set up where we can get paid for the rest of our lives, quote unquote, until something went wrong. And that lasted 3 weeks.
So that brings you to the day that they catch you. Now,
I'm at work when they catch me. Yeah.
So you're at work. You walk. So tell us how this goes down. This is already
insane. I end up. So I'm doing the Rodney King thing on the 5th of May. We're doing Rodney King patrol, and I didn't get one radio call. The 6th of May, I'm working with my partner, and I don't get one radio call that day either. I'm like, this is insane. Like the 9-4 is slow, but it's not this slow. Anyway, we're doing our regular rounds. We're stopping off at the bodega. Kenny called me up. Can you get me a half a kilo, whatever? I got him a half a kilo. I met him on the side of the BQE in Meeker Avenue. And by the call, there's a bar that used to call the Call Box. I think it was on Graham Avenue. Anyway, so I met him at the Call Box. I gave him his piece, and I see cars following us. I'm like, this looks like the police, but I didn't want to say anything to my partner. Tommy. I didn't want Tommy to know. I didn't want him to get spooked. And hell, he didn't do anything. I did, right? So Kenny gets his piece. He drives back to Long Island. We're driving around 9-4, and I get 10-2 to the command. So I go, how about a 10-1? They go, no, 10-2. 10-2 means report to the command. And I look at Tommy. He looks at me. I go, did we do anything wrong today? Just sold like tequila.
Right,
no, we didn't do anything wrong. I mean, well, this is odd that they would call us back to the command. So I pull up on Meserole Street the wrong way towards the precinct. And I look to my left and I see an unmarked car that I've never seen before. And I walk into the precinct station house. I'm like, there's something's wrong here. Meanwhile, we just filled up from the call box 2 vodka 7s, the size of your head. They were this far. And they're sitting one sitting between my feet on the floor and one sitting between his feet on the floor. And we go into the station house and I walk towards the desk and I turn towards the desk and the desk officer says, he points towards the front door and says, the captain wants to see you in his office. So we turn back toward the captain's office and in comes these 2 guys with their badges out. Lieutenant so-and-so, turn left past, blah, 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 blah. All right, well, what do you want, guys? So we're taking you for a drug ordered, a department ordered drug test.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right, whatever.
So you're almost relieved. You don't think that's all it is.
This is fine. I'm going to lose my job today. That's fine. It's okay. So we go downstairs and I can't, like the guy's up my, I can't even get, I'm like, excuse me, am I under arrest? What the fuck? I'm trying to get undressed. I can't even bend my knee. You're so tight up. You're holding me. Give me some room. Meanwhile, I got cocaine in my pants. I got cocaine in my locker. I got guns in my locker. I'm like, oh, Christ. So I'm like, here I am putting the pants on to put the cocaine in it. And I'm going, this might not go well. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to throw the cocaine in that garbage pail right there on my way out. Okay. Guy was standing by the garbage pail. I mean, they lined my walkway. I couldn't do anything. And I got in the patrol car, back seat. I go, this is a little odd. Like, why don't you just tell me to report? Like, oh no, we'll take you there. We'll take you there ourselves. I look. There's no handles on the fucking doors. I go. So I go. I got to smoke a cigarette. So now I'm smoking like 100 cigarettes, filling the whole car up with smoke. I said, you guys want to crack the window for a second? No, we'll be okay. I'm trying to throw the cocaine out the fucking window. Nothing's happening here. I get out of the patrol car at unmarked car at Left Rack City, the police surgeon's office on the 16th floor. So when I get out of the patrol car, they march us. They walk me towards the doorway to the building, and it's lined with brass, like lined on both sides. Mm-hmm. I would say there was 100 patrol.
Wow.
100 patrol badges with the detective badges, lieutenant badges, captains. Every scrambled egg you ever saw in a hat was there. I'm like, this is pretty big for a fucking drug test. What the fuck is this all about?
That must have been when it hit you.
I said, well, you know what? It's like when you're one of 7 kids, you always hold out hope. Right? Right. Something's going to turn out okay here. Right? So I'm like, hey, this is a little bit more than I'm thinking, but hey, And they open they hit the button for the 16th floor, and the elevator opens up, and there's 2 chiefs on the elevator. Oh, hi, Chief. Hey, hi, Chief. I'm hanging out with the chiefs today. I go upstairs, walk out, and there's this lieutenant who's been after me forever. He goes, Officer Dowd, take a pee for me in this cup. And I went, I was drunk too from the fucking vodka 7. I got up, shh. And I say, this is going to be really good. I put the cover back on. Here you go. I turn around. He goes, Suffolk County detective stands up and says, Mr. Dowd, you turn around. You're under arrest. I go, oh, okay, nice. What a day this has turned out to be.
Yeah.
This is great. I'm going to write about this. So, you're under arrest for conspiracy to distribute narcotics in Suffolk County. I said, okay. What am I going to do? Say, I'm so sorry. You don't say anything, he didn't say anything until I got in a patrol car on the way to the Suffolk County. I said, I'll buy you guys some beer on the way. It's going to be a while before I have one. So, you realize you're stuck, right?
Right. What are you going to do? Right.
What are you going to do? Let's make the best of this party. Yeah. So, but the funny thing was, as they put the cuffs on me and they reach in my pocket, and what did they get? 5 grams of cocaine that I have for my little stash. that wasn't too cool. I said to the guy, what do you put? Typical perp, right? What are you doing putting drugs in my fucking pocket? No, I said, you're going to set me up like this? What's wrong with you?
Do you think that, so they made you take the drug test beforehand because I guess they figured if they told you were under arrest, you would refuse it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's how fucked up the NYPD was. They didn't know if I was going to beat the charges or not, but they wanted to have a dirty urine so they could fire me. That was their main goal, was that they could fire me.
Wow. Yeah, so that was really what they were trying to do, was fire you. It wasn't even about the charges as much.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Their goal was to fire me. And that plays off on another story, because they had told me one time when I had spoke to them about an incident, and we're getting off on a different track, but I spoke to the Internal Affairs about an individual one time. And they said, well, we just want to have information to fire him in case he tries to come back on the job. A guy who got arrested for being a hitman for a drug organization, whatever. Right. So it's a whole nother venue.
So how are you doing on time? Because I do have some more stuff I'd love to ask you, but I don't want to keep you longer than you want.
I mean, we can go another 10 minutes if you want.
Okay. So in that case, there's two things I wanted to touch on. Firstly, you're waiting to be sentenced, right? So, and as you're waiting to be sentenced, still you come up with one more plan. Now, you think this is more now because of how much you're on drugs at this point, that you're just in a state of panic because you hatch a kidnapping for some reason to get yourself enough money to leave town. And I mean, look, I guess in retrospect, you're going to jail either way. So, but this is the part where Kenny, your partner, tapes you and turns you in.
Right. So, yeah. So I'll make this short, the Reader's Digest version. So while out on bail, they came to Kenny, the feds, and I didn't know this. And then he did tell me at one point, listen, the feds called me in and they want to wrap us up in a 5-year package deal. Why don't you go speak to them? So I said, why would I speak to them? Like I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they work. I do now. So he's like, oh, be easy. We'll just do this and we'll get a 5-year plea deal. And I'm like, Kenny, if you don't tell on me, I'm looking at maybe trying to get my job back. That's how fucking delusional I am, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because you hold that last bit of hope. Or the state's got to offer me like 3 years. So why would I want to do 5 or more with the feds when I can do 3 years or less with the state? So anyway, I said, as long as you don't tell on me, we're good. Anyway, so while this is going on, I go see somebody, and the guy says to me, dude, you're getting 25 years. You're not getting fucking 3.
No.
So I went, what? You're the bad boy now. You're the fucking face. You are the one.
And I have this here because as a New Yorker, right, growing up, we see the Daily News every single day, and now all of a sudden you see this.
Yeah.
You're on the fucking front page of the Daily News, and not for good reason.
No, I'm not the hero. No.
Right, and so once it becomes a story, the chances of getting away with anything are pretty much gone at this point now.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't mean you don't try, right?
Of course. No, I get that.
Way out of the box. Still trying to find my way out of the box,
Right.
And, because, I'm looking to survive now. At this point, I'm just looking to survive. And so you can't even believe how this works out. I have tenants that live in my house. They're Colombian drug dealers. I didn't know this, but they were. So they see me out on bail. They ask me if I would get involved with them. Turns into a whole Megillah. And Megillah means like a big show. And so they end up telling me that there's a guy that they want to introduce me to, who turns out he's the DEA, that they robbed him for $500,000 or $1 million and 10 kilos. So, oh yeah, well, I'm in. I'm in. Let's go get it. There's this woman. She has this home in Forest Hills, and you just got to go in there and take it from her. Just it shouldn't be that hard. It's a single woman. They made it perfect. Single woman, lives by herself. She has nobody, but her husband's dead, and we need to get the money from her, and she won't give it up.
Mm-hmm.
I said, come on. How the fuck difficult could this be? Just knock on the door and tell her to give you the money back. Let's go. Anyway, so as that whole thing unwinds, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And I'm like it's changing. Like the whole Kenny's changing the game. Mike, we're going to need guns. I go, for what? There's a woman by herself in a house. We're going to knock on the door with some flowers and go inside and say, "Can we have your money, please?" I mean,
so they're basically telling him to set you up. They're giving him a script.
They're feeding the script to him, and he's following a script. And I mean, there's so many things along the way that I'm questioning him. Kenny, are you working for them? No, I would never do that to you. And I want to believe the guy. I love him. I'm like, right at this point, I'm desperate. I love anybody who talks to me. Come on, Kenny. And it just didn't make sense, but I didn't care. My mind said, you can do this. And even to the last minute, when I knew he was turning against me, I wanted it to not be true. And it just, clearly it was. Yeah. But it was just, the way it came down was he was wearing a wire, every time he spoke with me for about, 2-3 weeks. And we weren't even going there we were going to the house to do a surveillance, we weren't going there to do anything.
So we hadn't taken it out the first time.
We were going there to surveil the house. And he's trying to get me to go to the front door. I'm like, Kenny, we're not supposed to go to the front door. The 2 Colombians are supposed to go to the front door. 1, and 2, it's not today. We're just coming here to check the place out. You don't just hit a place without knowing it, right? I mean, come on. How many times you hit a place without knowing it?
Right.
Not very often, right? You got to know the place. So, I mean, how many times? I'm asking you a question. How many times did you hit a place without knowing it? You got to check it out, right? So here, I got to check it out. So we got to look the place over. And the bottom line is, it was an empty house. No one lived in it. No one lived in it.
Yeah, it's staged.
And it was a great setup, but I never went to the door. I turned around. I said, you know what? I'm not doing this. I drove home, and then I walked in the house, and my wife says to me, "What happened?" I said, "I don't know. I don't feel right." I said, "Things didn't go well today." She goes, "Well, just so you know, Dory, Kenny's wife, said, if I don't ever see you guys again, remember I love you."
Oh boy.
I said, what, excuse me? Like, hello? What? When did this happen? She said, last night when we were hanging out together. And then all of a sudden, the cars were whipping into the court, and I was going in and out to the federal building.
Wow. So you wind up doing how long?
I was sentenced to 14 years, so I did 12 years.
So that judge didn't give you any hookup for testifying with the ethics?
You know what? In her defense, I wasn't the most popular guy in a good way in New York. And number 2, she said that I was inclined to give you more. Right. She said, but because you talked to the Marlon Commission and they say that you were helpful, I'm going to give you right in the middle, which was 14. Of course, I was going in there hoping I was going home. Believe me, that's how weird wow, maybe I can go home. Or maybe 5 years or something, like you fucking hold on to the last bit of hope. But she said, I'm giving you 14 years. And then the district attorney from Suffolk was there. And he says, we had him for life sentence charges. We this, we that. And she turns around and she tells the district attorney, well, in the feds, I'm giving him 14 years, which means he does most of the time. Not like in the state, you give them, 5 to life and they do 6 or 8 years and they go home. So it was like a little bit of a competitive thing in the courtroom with each other. But
yeah, that's the one. Then the last thing I wanted to, because this is the one part that they don't touch on at all in the documentary, and this is a big part. When you go to jail, your life doesn't stop. You're still fucking alive. So to go to jail, not only to go to jail, you're going to jail as a police officer, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows who you are. You're on television. You're on the newspapers. So how are you treated there? Do the correction officers treat you like shit? Do the prisoners treat you like shit? I mean, it's jail. Everybody treats each other like shit. But what was that part like?
It was, I'm a social guy. I'm, outgoing, gregarious. I think I'm funny sometimes.
You showed us your genitals before we started.
I like social. So it's very difficult at first, and until you learn how to matriculate through prison, and how to either gain a friendship or an associate that will say hello. I think the most difficult thing is sitting down to eat. Because you don't want to sit at the wrong table. because people either get up or they'll fucking, say something to you. Don't sit at my fucking table. And so it's you can have like an altercation like that. So I always try to pick a table where no one is and sit by myself. And if someone wanted to join me, that was on them to sit where I am or not. Because like you said, everybody knew who I was. I was like a focal point. Like if you were a new inmate to the prison and you wanted to get a new friend, you'd say, hey, the bus just emptied out. There's 36 new guys on the compound. They'd go, hey, listen, Johnny, yeah, what's up? See that guy over there? He was a New York City cop. So now this guy's got a best friend, right?
Right.
He's in prison. He gave him information. Now they're best friends. And now this guy, Johnny, knows me. Mm-hmm. And it happens every fucking day, all day long. So a funny story, I get transferred. One of my transfers, I went from, well, it's a little story, but I ended up in Pennsylvania, in McKean, Pennsylvania. So the lieutenant calls me in and says, like they call it SIS in prison, calls me in. He says, listen, Dowd, now this prison here, you should be fine. He said, you're not the only cop on the compound. There's a lot of cops, but everybody, he said, if you just don't tell anybody what you were or where you're from, you'll have no problems. I said, Lieutenant, now this time I'm in prison now 9 years. I go, Lieutenant, by lunchtime, everybody on the compound is going to know I'm here. Right. And he looks at me and he goes, yeah. Well, just, I doubt it. This place isn't run like that. I said, okay. Now they give you your roll, your clothes, your bag, you're on your shoulder. And I walk to my unit. I tell I check in with the officer in the unit. I said, Dowd, report, and you have cell 102, bottom bunk, top bunk, whatever the fuck it was. And
we lost him. Out of time. Jesus Christ. So
Mike click back in.
Yeah, I'll wait it out. Hopefully, he must have got a phone call or something. What a time to lose.
Who keeps calling him?
I like this. This is a good symbol to end on.
And he's still going, yeah.
That's for Blue Power, Franco.
Yeah, so while we wait and see if he can reconnect, I want everyone, you can check out his website, themikeDowd.com. And it's just funny, like it's like the end of an 80s movie where he just freezes in place. I'm gonna tell him
it's The Sopranos all over again.
Oh, he left. Okay, he knows. Give him a second. But just the stories, Jesus Christ! Imagine, crazy. So
I know. I wanted to know when he was like closest to death. Like, how many times has this man had a gun at his head?
I know, true. So true. Let me just text him and see.
I've only had one gun to my head in my entire life.
It was your mom?
No, I wish.
Your mom probably got to your head.
No, it was a rando.
All right. So I just texted him that he dropped off. We'll give him a second. But so yeah, a couple of things, I guess, while we wait for him to come back. I want to remind everybody that you can now check us out on Twitch TV for the live stream as well. We stream live to Facebook Live, to our YouTube channel, and we also stream live to Twitch TV now. So if you go there, like I think there's like 2 people that are following us because it's a gaming site. Nobody knows who we are, but go ahead.
Oh, is Rob frozen now too?
His power just went out. Okay, we'll wrap up. His power just went out. Hold on, we'll wrap up. Thanks so much. All right. So unfortunately, we don't get a chance to thank him or hear the
end of his story.
No, I know. But hold on, I just want to see what he replies back. Actually, you know what? Hold on a second. I'm gonna call him real quick. On speaker.
Hello.
Hey, Mike, I just called you on speaker. I just want to say thank you very much for joining us and have everybody.
You can't even make this shit up. I'm just trying.
I was hoping you didn't get busted again.
The feds came in.
but
tell everybody thanks for the interview. It was good. It was, I get a little intense sometimes. I get lost in the woods with the stories because they just keep making 5 more stories after the next one.
No, it's all good, man. You're welcome back anytime. And again, I want everybody to go to themikeDowd.com. Check out Mike's website. You can you have merchandise on there, and I know you're working on some good stuff. So when you're ready to promote anything, just reach out and let us know. You're welcome back anytime.
All right, thanks, Bobby.
All right, take care, Mike.
Bye, Mike.
He called me Robbie. So
I don't even call you that, and you're my dad.
And I guess on that note, I guess we'll wrap it up. Thank you for listening to The Hole. I am Rob Sprance.
I'm Franco Del Valle.
I'm Lori Levine.
Later, motherfuckers.